Hi, I'm Josiah,
And I'm Colin.
and this is Worth Watching. So, we're going to have to wait for Colin to get back from the further before we begin this review. Oh, hi.
Hi. So we just came back from watching Insidious 2.
And by the way, in this review, we're going to give away a couple major spoilers for the first movie, Insidious.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen that yet, don't watch this review yet. Watch the first movie and then come back and watch this.
Yeah. Okay. So this took place a couple weeks after the first movie, right where it left off. It starts with the family going through some legal investigations referring to Josh being investigated, whether or not he was involved in the murder of Elise, right there at the end of the first movie. So there's a little bit of turmoil right there. The movie goes on, and a lot of interesting start to happen with Josh, some different things.
Something is not right with Josh.
No, not at all. So as the plot continues, it focuses a lot on the consequences of events in Josh's past. So what did you think of it?
I actually really liked it. I mean, going into it, I had heard a lot of critics' reviews that weren't too fond of it, that had different critiques of it. And for the most part, I really liked it. I thought the acting was really, really good.
Yeah.
I thought Patrick Wilson in particular was fantastic.
He did phenomenal this one.
He was
by
really
far.
great at showing sort of the side of him where he's kind of, possessed and things like that going on. He's much darker than he was in the first movie. He's dealing with a lot of stuff like that. I thought he did a great job.
Creepy.
Yeah, he's very creepy.
Yeah.
So I thought he did a fantastic job portraying the characters.
I really liked the amount of layers that were in the movie. It really helped wrap up and explained some of the things that were left questionable in the first movie.
Right.
It really started to get in depth, and just the layers kept building and building up.
Yeah, and you got a lot of these really cool little recursive references back to things that happened in the first movie.
Yeah.
Like you actually got to see some scenes that happened in the first movie from a different point of view, which I thought was really cool.
I did, yeah. I really liked that.
One of my favorite parts about this movie that actually I felt was more present in this movie than in the first one was the fact that you've got, in the first movie, the scares were generally one-hit scares, something scary happens. In this movie, I thought you were tense throughout the entire movie, and you'd have these sequences that would last 30 to 45 seconds where things just kept happening and building, getting scarier and scarier and scarier.
They definitely did, and they did a very good job on keeping the cliches that you use in most other movies down to a minimum.
Yeah, I mean, this one had a couple jump scares, which the first one didn't. But overall, I think, characters were smart when they should be smart.
One of the big things I really didn't like is the fact that when people were actually in the further, it almost seemed like they were able to time travel to past events that happened, and I almost felt like, why should he be there when he really...
No, I liked that because I thought the further was kind of outside of time, so it's just them kind of being able to move around within the further, and time was irrelevant at that point.
I get that. I didn't like it at all.
It was good.
Bad.
On the other hand, one thing that I was not particularly fond of was I thought that this movie had a little bit of lazy dialogue writing. I thought there was kind of a lot of expository dialogue where characters either just speaking about a situation or telling people their motives rather than just acting on them.
Okay.
So that kind of bugged me a little bit because that always gets on my nerves.
Yeah, didn't bother me too much, but...
Oh well.
Oh well.
So what would you give the movie on a scale of A through F?
I would give it an A. One, because it was the best horror movie sequel I've ever seen. Probably because it continued the story and wrapped things up.
Right. Well, like you had said in the review of the first one, this is really a part two to the movie.
Yeah.
It's wrapping up the story.
It was
of the
too
Dalton
big
family.
to make into one movie. They had to make a part two.
Right.
So now that both are done and everything's wrapped up, oh man, it is a great series.
Yeah, and I agree with you completely. I would, however, have to give it a B, just because there was, I had a couple issues with the different things in it. It isn't quite good enough for an A. I'd say as a horror movie, it's borderline A right there, but just as a movie as a whole, I think it's a B. I think it's still a fantastic sequel. I really enjoyed it. I would definitely see it again.
Yeah. Well, there you have it.
We will see you next week.
We'll see you next week.